our school was down by a bunch going into the game, and I was getting texts from people in the school being like, I hope you're coming to the game tonight because we're going to need you for pull-ups.
I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. There ain't no way in hell I know what's going on 5 years from now.
What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. It is our belief that the only guarantee in life is that we are all going to struggle, and how we choose to embrace our struggles is what empowers us to become the best versions of ourselves. How's it going? My name is Pete, coming to you live from my basement in Heartland, Vermont, and with me is my friend and co-host Todd Ellis, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington. What's up, Todd?
How's it go, Peter?
I'm feeling like we're going to have a successful episode today.
Is that right? Well, let me see what I can do to get in the way of that.
How's everything in the 213?
253. It's 4 more than you thought.
Shows my listening skills. I've only edited you say that 40 or 50 times.
That's fine. It's good. It's a fall day. Fall has finally arrived in the Pacific Northwest, so snow is on the way, and the wind blew pretty hard today, so which I like. I like fall. It's my favorite season. So that's what's up over here. How about in the VT?
Yeah, the sign of winter on the way is when I am forced to bring all of my workout equipment from the garage down to the basement because the garage is not insulated. And obviously that happens twice a year. The equipment move goes,
the migration
goes down to the basement right around Halloween, depending on the weather each year, and goes up around Memorial Day. So when I do it myself, it takes about 6 hours. When I have friends come over, it's significantly less.
Nice.
And my good buddy Holic Poe came over today and his son Ruben, and they helped me move a bunch of stuff, and it only took us like 2 hours. So
that's
a little
awesome.
bit less. Yep. So everything is in a pile in the basement right here as I look at it, and I love organizing and restructuring and setting up my fitness space.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. The topic tonight is from a culmination of a bunch of different interactions and pieces that I've kind of found myself engaged in recently. And this episode stems from a word that I absolutely loathe, and that word is success. As a teacher, I hear this word thrown around in many different ways all the time, and sometimes it makes me cringe. And I'd love to have a conversation with you tonight about your perspective on the word success. And before we get into that, I'd love to pull up what Google says is the definition of success. And according to Google, success is the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. So with that said, I was recently listening to a series of podcasts with this guy named Colin O'Brady. And he was the first person to walk unassisted across the continent of Antarctica. It was 932 miles. And unassisted means he had to pull all his food and everything in a sled with him across the way. And he did that fairly recently. But prior to that, one of his first big adventures was climbing Mount Everest. He did that in 2016. When he got back from that, he was really excited to go into schools and to talk to kids about his experience and talk about what he called, quote, finding your Everest. And he shared in one of the interviews I was listening that as he went around from school to school, he went to all different types of schools and all different ages of kids in schools. And he found that when he'd stand in front of a gymnasium or an auditorium of kids and he'd said, raise your hand and share with me, what is your Everest? Basically, what is your goal right now in life? Or what do you deem as a successful thing in your life or something you want to achieve? He said it was really interesting that the younger the kids, the more responses he got. So if he was in a gymnasium full of kindergartners and first and second graders, he'd say, share with me, what is your Everest? And every hand would go up. And then we went on to middle school, less hands would go up. And then we went on to high school, there'd be a few hands that would go up. And then when you do speaking engagements with college students or adults, like 1 or 2 hands would go up in the back of the room. And it was just really interesting for me to listen to that and think about, like, what is my Everest right now? And what was my Everest back when I was in those stages that I just named, elementary school, middle school, high school?
Are you saying that the response he got from the different age groups differed, or like, did it differ in the response? Yeah, to respond.
The number of people willing to share dropped off as the age of the group that he was speaking to got older.
Thank you.
And I just thought that was really interesting. So it got me thinking about like, oh, I don't know. What was my Everest in elementary school? What was my Everest? What was my big thing that I wanted to achieve? And he was talking about how like in elementary school, kids raise their hand and share, oh, I want to be the first one in my family to graduate from college. Oh, I want to be the first female doctor to, work in the hospital in our town or whatever. The different things where they were shared. And he was just talking about how people are much, much less likely to share what success is in their life or their perspective of what it is that they want to achieve in their life as we get older. And I just thought that was a really, really interesting point. And then earlier this week, as always, you and I had some text exchanges, and you are following a website called the Daily Calm. And I've asked Todd to share with me when he has a powerful quote from there or something that's shared through that content, if he could share with me, and he does regularly. And Todd, you sent me recently this. Don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you're going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue. And shortly after that, you sent me another text from someone named Adam Grant. And he said, your worth is not defined by what you achieve or acquire. It's a question of who you become and how you contribute to others. Self-esteem should come from character, not success or status. The highest accomplishment is to be a person of generosity, curiosity, and integrity. And based on the fact that you sent me that, Todd, I'm guessing that you agree with it. And I want to kick our conversation off about success.
Peter, you think you're a terrible interviewer, and I think that you have some of the most deep thoughts around strange things. They're not strange, but deep thoughts around things that come out of absolute no place. Like it's so awesome for me to watch. So I just send you these random tidbits that I come across because I'm like, that's interesting to think about. And clearly you think it's interesting to think about, but you think about it like, how can I talk about this and like, explore this thing when I'm just like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. That's interesting, fun to think about. So it's really cool to like be invited to watch that process of you. I think that's really cool. It's not very often you get to think about how somebody else is thinking when you're thinking about it, which is pretty cool for me. Yeah, success is an interesting one. So I hear like kind of two themes, and correct me if I'm wrong. One is like on a timeline of how we think about success, like explore each of those timelines perhaps, or maybe we can dive into that. And the other, which I find more interesting that you kind of touched on, and I don't know if you wanted to make it like a topic or a subject of the topic, but is what do you think is the reasoning that he had lesser response from older people? Like, I don't know, is that something you want to dive into or not so much?
Yeah. So in planning for tonight's episode, I have a couple of different ideas that I want to kind of address this conversation, but I always like to open it up for you to share your thoughts kind of on the outset of it, in case your thoughts, which they often are, provoke some really cool thoughts that I didn't have prior to the episode. And in thinking about it, I thought it would be really cool for each of us to share, and we don't have to go super deep into detail, but if we think back on our life, like when we were in elementary school, like what would have been our Everest at the time? And he says, what is your Everest? Because he was saying that was his big goal. Like that was something he wanted to achieve in his life. To him, getting to the top of Everest was success. So when he says, what's your Everest? It's like, what is it that would be successful for you in your life? And so I got to thinking about, like, in my elementary years, like, can I even take myself back enough to even answer that question? And maybe having a 7-year-old in my house is helpful for that. But I think my Everest back then was just to have fun, like just to play and have fun. And I didn't really think much beyond that. It's funny that you said that you think that I'm a deep thinker, because I've never thought of myself as a deep thinker, and especially in my formative years. I think in middle school, I really just wanted to be a cool kid and maybe be the best soccer player on my team. But nothing groundbreaking, or I didn't have a passion for something that I can recall that was outside of hanging out with my friends and playing sports. My wife has always known since she was in elementary school that she wanted to be an elementary teacher. So like that was a drive for her all along. And she was a valedictorian of her high school class, and she had professors try to talk her out of it because she could make more money doing other things. But she kind of had this drive from a very young age. And I certainly did not. If anyone were to say that I have drive, that drive that they see didn't kick in until much later in life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I think in high school for me, I've talked a little bit about the challenges of high school for me, particularly those first 2 years. I honestly think my Everest success for me is just to survive those first 2 years. And then once I found a peer group and I was accepted, I have no clue what my Everest would have been in high school. If you were to ask me during my high school years, like, what's success to you? What do you want to achieve in life? What are you shooting for? What's your Everest? I don't even think I could answer that question beyond what I was doing that day. In my college years, for some reason, I flipped a switch and I decided that grades was going to be my thing. I'm just not entirely sure what spawned that, but I really wanted to get good grades in college. So getting good grades was kind of like my Everest, thinking maybe that would lead me to something. And then my post college years, it was just I lived in the back of my truck. I traveled all over the world. I'd save up money just enough to go on a trip. So like exploration and adventure, that was my Everest, and to like follow my heart. I think back then I was big on like quote unquote being happy. I just wanted to be happy. And for me, that came in the form of travel and vagabonding and dirt bagging around the globe. And then after that, I kind of settled into a career and I started to find my purpose in helping others. And I think now, um, I've shared many times in this podcast to live, love, learn, and lead, but really striving to enhance the lives of others. So that's kind of a very quick summation of where I'm at, where I've been at. But I think right now, if you were to ask me my definition of success or what success is to me, there's 2 points that I've heard in the last bunch of years that I really like. And one is if you fall flat on your face, that's a good sign that you're probably moving forward. I love that one. And the other one that I love is the definition of success being the ability to repeatedly fail over and over again without the loss of enthusiasm. It sounds a little bit like teacher speak, but truly for me, I think success is as long as you're trying and you're moving forward in whatever you deem is worth moving forward toward, you are succeeding. I can see the smoke coming out of your ears right now. You are thinking deep. Wow. You think deep often, but you're going really deep right now.
It's just so funny. The success, like what, like
I
how do
know.
you? Yeah, it's an interesting topic for me.
It's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, as you were going back, I was trying to put myself in those points of time, and I even having you had read the definitions of success earlier, they still don't the pieces don't fit in my mind for success in that way. So if I think back to somebody would say, "What's your Everest? What is your Everest?" And I was in elementary school, I'd probably look at them like, "What are you talking about?" But then I started thinking about things like, "Oh, I like to do things I'm good at. I like to feel like people like me," and it goes, I think, with the cultures. So it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. I think success is predicated on one's ability to have to knowingly be aware of a goal or something that fills them with an emotion, a feeling, and then to go towards that. I think that's success, as long as you're moving towards that and you can realize that those are the things that fill you up personally. But I think when we talk about success, and you can obviously, as a teacher, like you said at the beginning, like there's all kinds of meanings for success in that realm, right? But I think if we okay, so like for middle school, right, success would have been fitting in with the crowd that I thought was important. Success would have been meeting the cultural norms of, having a girlfriend, or having a partner or something like that, and like those would be successful moments. So they're more like milestones in my opinion. Like, but now as I look further, as you were talking, I think it's vastly different now than it would have ever been then, obviously, but for different reasons. And I think the closer that you come to those steps of success and whatever it is where you feel that and you feel like that's validated, I think that eventually arrives you at a place where success has a larger, more encompassing meaning. So like you were saying, like, I want to impact people. I would have never thought that 10 years ago, not in this manner, but only through those small successes could I have got to this outlook now to where I'm at. So that in of itself is a great success, right? So I don't know. It's really weird. And I keep coming back to the fact that people, like that study, right? People are asked, but they're less apt to share, right? Because I think there's this element of shame that comes along with, did I meet the successes of what everybody else thought it was supposed to be before? And if that feeling wasn't hit, then they're less willing to share something that's vulnerable because like it wasn't successful, or they might see it as not successful, or that sounds silly for where I'm at. I don't want to be a fireman and sitting in this corporate boardroom. Like those two things don't go together. But then, so I don't know. I think there's a lot wrapped up in success of how that looks and how that perspective differs from individual to individual, and even from like region to region, or culture to culture. It's very interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's very interesting for me to think about. This guy Colin O'Brady was saying that he thought that a lot of the reasons why the older people wouldn't share their success is, A, they're just more worried about what other people in the room might think about what they say, but B, that as we get older, we put limitations on ourselves. And as we get older, there's more and more limitations. So there's less and less opportunities for successful endeavors in our life, which I think was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Where'd you find that book?
It was a podcast I was listening to. I think he has 2 books out.
Oh, that's cool.
He actually just released a book, I think, called The 12-Hour Walk. And it's basically about one way to do a little soul searching and to spend some time with yourself is to commit to a 12-hour block of time where you don't have to walk for 12 straight hours. He's saying you could walk however much or how little as you like, stop, take breaks, see the scenery, but you're not interacting with anybody or anything as in a device for 12 hours. So I think the name of the book is A 12-Hour Walk.
That's awesome. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. The other thing that spawned me wanting to have this conversation is, I think another thing that's fascinating, at least about me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I've shared in past episodes that I feel like I'm intrinsically motivated in some ways, but definitely the extrinsic plays a role in my life. Each year at my school, they have what's called a rivalry week, and there's a rival high school in our state, Rutland, and every year our 2 football teams play. And the Marines, as a recruiting tool, they come to the schools and they set up a pull-up bar, and over the course of a day, simultaneously at each school, students from the school go up to the pull-up bar and do as many as they can, and they count the total pull-ups for the school. It's not just students, it's anyone in the school community. And then they bring the pull-up bars on the Friday night at the end of the day to the actual football game, and the fans can go on their respective pull-up bars and do pull-ups, and whatever school does the most pull-ups by the end of the game is the pull-up champion for that year.
Yeah,
and obviously the football teams play, and whoever wins a football game gets the rivalry trophy and all these things. And our school was down by a bunch going into the game, and I was getting texts from people in the school being like, I hope you're coming to the game tonight because we're going to need you for pull-ups. And I got on the pull-up bar, and the entire student section, which is, 100 or so kids, maybe a little bit more, is going crazy cheering for me. And it was really neat. Like, I really enjoyed their support. It was really, really awesome to have. But on the way home that night, I was thinking about how success for me is to be viewed as a fit human being. I honestly do not care if people think that I'm smart. I don't care if people think that I'm rich or have money or that I'm well-traveled or any of these things. But for some reason, success for me is to be viewed as a fit person. Like, why? And then I started thinking about, because I never viewed myself as a fit person growing up. And it's like these things that we like have to work for. I hate to use the word earn, but maybe with things that we feel that we weren't born with, that were not innate, that we kind of had to earn, that we want to be successful in those things. And that's actually more important to somebody like me than to be successful in something that was innate or natural or God-given. And I think that that's a really interesting inroad when I think about success. Why the heck does it matter to me to be viewed as this fit person?
That is interesting for sure. Yeah,
it's like my wife always says, the beautiful want to be seen for their smarts, and the smarts want to be seen for their beauty, right? Like, yeah.
There's so much wrapped up in that. It's just like, what drove that? Was it a moment of something? Was it like, no, it must be because the validation of it's the validation of the hard work to achieve it, right?
I think it's got to be, right? It's got to be
something like that. Yeah. Like, I started on this and I told myself I'm going to finish it, and success means when I feel like I've met that, the standard, I guess. How about this? Do you ever feel like you're never going to achieve that? So there's validating moments like, oh, here comes Mr. D. He's going to throw the cape off and do some pull-ups. But were you like, I could have done 2 more? Like, are you never going to reach it?
Oh, yeah. I was really bummed.
So then is that success?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. And do I need like competitions or objective measures for me to
Yeah.
confirm or not confirm that success? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, do you ever feel successful in it? You're like, yeah, I'm crushing it. I'm good. Like I endeavor to look better, or that be my measure of success. And do you feel like you're getting that, or do you always just keep going because you feel like it's never going to be achieved as wholly
I
as you would
honestly
like it?
feel both. Like I
Huh.
honestly feel both. Like the small feelings of success keep me fueled and keep me going, but I don't feel like I'm there.
Huh.
I've never felt like I've arrived or I've been there.
It's interesting.
So, what's success in your life right now? What's your Everest?
I still don't. I don't even have one. I think I don't know. That's a very deep question. Like if somebody they ask you at work all the time, at least in corporate circles, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 3-year plan? Like they don't do it so much anymore, but they used to love that. And if you didn't have an answer that was like, something they could comprehend, they'd be like, well, you need to think about, it's like career coaching or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
And I always thought, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. There ain't no in hell I know what's going on 5 years from now. And if I did, I'd be very scared of going towards that because, I don't know. So I have no Everest other than to just do my best. I think that, do as good as I can. I recently read this. It goes, do the best you can where you are with what you have. And I thought that just about sums up everything that happens in my life because at some point I'm like, oh, I'm dreading this. I don't want to go there and do that thing. And then I get there. And then it's like, man, I don't really have all the tools for this. But it's like, just do what you do the best you can with what you already have there. And if I apply that to everything that I do, I feel like I'm meeting that bar of success as long as I can, be working in that way. So I don't know if that's an Everest or not, because it's clearly not a mountain, but I mean, it's a mountain of work, I suppose. But yeah, so that's my.
yeah. I mean, there's a huge piece of me that thinks there's more merit in that than some sort of goal where there's an objective measure of completion, right? Like Everest, there's a peak to Everest.
Yeah.
You get there, and you cannot go any further, and the only option there, you turn around and go down.
Yeah, but some people
Where
that's the checkbox. Like I've succeeded, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
so then I guess so then I guess for those people, it's like, well, what's next? Like, what's the next Everest or
Yeah.
whatever that is?
Yeah.
Um,
But that gets into goals, right? Like that's just a goal.
yeah, yeah.
So
So for me, to live, love, learn, and lead with a healthy mind, a strong body, and a grateful spirit, and to really try to positively impact the lives of other people, of all the people that I interact with. I was actually prepared for you to ask me the question because I've noticed that you've asked this question of our guests several times is
ooh.
how do you measure that, or what's your objective measure? I'm finding that when I get correspondence from people with whom I've interacted, that tends to be my fuel. Letters from former students,
So
letters from
validation that you're on the right
colleagues,
path.
that validation. Yeah, that's the validation that, okay, like maybe certain days I feel like I'm spinning my wheels in the mud and not going anywhere. But this letter right here that I just received, this text, this email, this student showing up at school who graduated 5 years ago just to say hi and they were in the neighborhood, like that's a validation for me that in some way, shape, or form that is indeed happening.
Yeah.
So I think for me right now, that's success.
Cool.
But for me, it's like I feel like there's so many different arenas for which I'm seeking improvement, like as a father, as a husband, as a son, with my fitness and all these types of things. So to put that all into kind of one funnel or one bucket, I think is challenging for me.
Which part that there's so many?
Yeah, like if you say to me what's success, I think my brain goes, well, success in fitness is this, and success
Success in which
in
area?
forging a bond with my daughter is this, and success in forging a bond with my wife is this, and so it's hard for me to just have like one
Yeah.
answer to that. Like,
Yeah.
what's your Everest? I don't know, but one thing I have been doing, which has kind of been really helpful for me, is I've been asking my female students who are between the ages of 15 and 18, as the father of a 7-year-old, what's something that I should be doing now to forge a bond with my daughter so that when my daughter's your age, I have a really good relationship with her.
See what I mean? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Who thinks that? And then to ask their actual like student body of that like age, like, hey, how could I do better? Like, I've never heard anybody think about anything. I think that's really cool. What do they say?
Well, what I'm finding is really, really cool. One, they're giving me awesome answers that I can put into play. Two, it forges a deep connection with me and that student.
Mm-hmm.
Because that student's thinking, holy crap, Mr. D cares about me enough to ask my opinion about this thing that impacts his relationship with his daughter. Like, what is more special than that?
Yeah, right.
And their answers have been profound.
Huh.
Their answers have been
Anything
profound.
actionable?
A couple of them.
Yeah.
One that said, there is no replacement for time together. Like, my father works all the time. He really wants to provide for me. I wish that we had less stuff and more time together. That was one.
Yeah.
Another one, she had such a great quote. She said, I'm really happy that my parents pushed me to do things that I didn't want to do. And the beauty of what they did was they pushed, but they never forced. And I thought that was how insightful for a 15-year-old girl
right.
to share that.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Yeah. So I guess for me, like I said a couple minutes ago, if you fall flat in your face, that's a sign that you're moving forward. For me, it's just in all these different arenas that I just named, and there's more of them than I just named.
Oh yeah.
Than just being a father, a husband, a teacher, fitness.
Well, there's even subcategories, right?
Absolutely.
Like it goes
Absolutely.
for days. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that I'm continuing to strive to move forward and being willing to fail without the loss of enthusiasm for trying to forge forward.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
What do you do when you see areas that you don't feel like you're being successful and you want to be? Because in order to know if you're meeting success, you have to be able to diff. Like,
I absolutely ponder on that. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're asking me, what are the big areas where I could absolutely be better? Definitely, I think I could be a much better son to my parents, and I could be. Oh man, I got a world to do as an uncle. I don't think that I fulfill my uncle responsibilities,
uncleness
for my 6 nieces and nephews. I'm not on top of birthdays. I'm not on top of regular correspondence. I'm not on top of things that when I was their age, that would have been really cool for me to hear from my uncle.
Wow.
I think the people that acknowledge my birthday and I don't acknowledge their birthday, that still bothers me that I don't do that. There's a couple of people in my life that reach out every year for my birthday, and I couldn't tell you when their birthday is, and that's
interesting.
So I think to answer your question, it's relationship based. I think it's relationships in my life that I could be better with.
It just dawned on me. Thank you for sharing that. You could use is a terrible word. You could leverage the same people that you ask those questions about. How can I be a better father, or what's the one thing, whatever, for all those different things, especially to get that younger perspective. Like, hey, random kid, what can I do to be a better uncle? And he's like, oh, my uncle just did this. It's almost like you have a palette to choose from of all these different cool. I never really thought about engaging people in that way. Like, just coming up to him with a random question, like, hey, what would you do in this case to be the best you could be? They would tell you something completely different than then you could use.
The tricky part is to be the best you can be for everyone that you want to be the best for. For me, it's an impossibility. As you always say, I have to give something up.
Well, but there's also what's their definition of success for that, right? Like, what do I really want from my uncle? Well, one of my nephews might just want to go fishing. The other one wants to go play table tennis. So the success is reciprocal, right? Like, I feel like I'm meeting you to do the thing you want me to do with you. So it's like, how do you know if you're meeting that? It's so crazy if you don't ask. So I never ask. I never say like, oh, how can I be your best uncle? That thought never even crossed my mind.
I've been trying to do that with my daughter. At least once a month, just sitting down with her and saying, hey, like, how can I be better? And so she shared with me the other day, her birth name is Lauren Jade Driscoll, and she's been LJ to me since she's come out of the womb. And she shared with me recently that she does not want to be called LJ in front of anybody else.
Oh.
So if we're at home, I can call her LJ, but if anyone is at our house or we're in public, please call her Lauren.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah. 7 years old.
I have probably, I don't know, 12 to 20 nicknames for her.
Yeah.
And they just come to my mind without even like thinking about it. They just do. Yeah. And she calls me out. And today I picked her up from school. I said, all right, LJ, it's time to go. And there were other people. She said, Daddy, Lauren. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, Lauren. Let's go.
We talked about this.
Kind of a little bit of a side note. When she was just born, like, a baby, and I brought her to the grocery store, I would always dress her up in non-pink, so I'd always have her in blues and greens and stuff. And I remember I went through the I went through the grocery store line, and the clerk said, "Oh my gosh, your son is so handsome. What's his name?" And I looked at her. I thought for a second. I go, "His name is Lawrence." And she's like, "Oh, Lawrence, you're so cute." And so sometimes I call LJ Lawrence,
Lawrence,
and she doesn't like that. So
Larry.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it's
those kid nicknames come out of nowhere.
yeah. My dad had a million for all of us, and
Oh yeah,
I'm the same way with my daughter.
hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, yeah, I like that idea. I'm gonna start asking random people, well, especially those people who I'm who are, who are that way. Like, hey, what about this? It's cool because it gets them thinking too about what if somebody asked me that question? What would I say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
that's
guess,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
So there's one tactical piece that people can take away from after listening to this episode is, I can
Yeah,
start to ask people how I can be better in the arenas that I strive to be better or for that person.
absolutely. Huh, and how? What about at school? How do you like for your students? They ask you all the time, like, what is because you have to kind of articulate what success is in terms of like grading or like expectations of class. As terrible as that word is, like, do you give them your outtake on the way you look at success and like try to plant that seed in them, or is it like you have to stay right at the like you need this 80% on this thing and have to be at school for blah blah blah? Like, how does that
So you're
work?
talking about success specifically to the grade in the class
Yeah, or
that I
just like
teach.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
it's a good question, and it's something that I've been, trying to figure out my entire career. And I'm not a big fan of grades for a number of reasons, but specifically, I want students to take my class, and I don't even call it my class. I always refer to it as our class. So it's not my space. It's not my environment. It's our environment. So I want students to take our class for one reason, and that's to strive to be a better version of themselves. And I want to help them be a better version of themselves. And obviously, my story is that fitness was what started rolling the snowball of positive change for me. So if I can provide that for students, I'm psyched about it. But I can't sit there and look a student in the eye and say, "Oh, you gave 81% effort today," and look at another student in the eye and say, "You gave 73% effort today," right? So the way that I've set up our class is students grade themselves. So at the end of every class, there's an assessment that they fill out based on a couple criteria that we talk about in the beginning of the school year. And yeah, there is an expectation of what you'll do in class to spend your 70 minutes to strive to be a better version of yourself. And this doesn't have anything to do with the grade, but I'm always just kind of curious to know their mindset. So they share their mindset when they arrive to class and they share their mindset when they leave. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
bank of words that they can choose from, you know, everything from depressed, stressed, miserable, tired, anxious to amazing, excited, top of the world, or they can just write in their own. And I'm curious to know where their mindset is when they arrive and where their mindset is when they leave. And they can start to hopefully see a trend of, oh, when I get to this class, I'm feeling this way, but when I leave, I'm feeling this way. And
Interesting.
that's really neat to see. That's not part of their grade. They just share that with me each day. And then initiative is a big part of being a better version of ourselves, right? So at some point we have to take some sort of action to be better. And then how much time do they spend on their phone during class? And they're going to they write down the number of minutes, and it's all based on trust. They're but I feel that 95% of kids are very accurate with their self-assessment with that. So we talk about if we're going to be the best version of ourselves, spending any time on social media, it's not a good use of our time because the studies show that when teenagers use social media, not only does it not help them be better, it's the other way around. They end up comparing themselves to other people and they are less happy or feel less fulfilled. So we talk about the detriment of social media and how in this hour of our life during this class, we take a break from that. We all have messes that we're dealing with and we leave our mess at the door. And when we return to our mess after working out, our mess is a little less messy. It's just a little easier to deal with. I'd venture to bet that people who work on a regular basis can relate to that. And then they just kind of do a couple other little self-assessment pieces, like what percentage of today's class were you actively participating? And is it all, some, none? And it's really, really basic. They can address their fitness however they want. If they want to become more flexible, they can stretch during class. If they want to lose weight or boost their cardio capacity, they can get their heart rate up. If they want to lift weights, they can lift weights. Whatever it is that their goal is, did they move themselves closer to it? And then, did you improve your fitness today? And that's a yes or no. I talk to them based on how you fill out the sheet. That's kind of what your grade is. And if I feel that what you're reporting is not accurate with what I'm seeing, you and I will just have a conversation. And in 5 years of teaching high school, I've had that conversation with like 3 kids. Like
over time. So is it like over
I
a
think,
sampling? Like you watch them and you're like, nah, you're not really
yeah,
not
like if,
showing up like you say you are.
yeah, like you're saying that you're spending 0 minutes on your phone during class, but I see you on
Yeah.
your phone often. Like
Yeah.
we just have a conversation about that. It's
Yeah.
all right. Well, and I don't come down hard on them. It's just like you're reporting this, I'm seeing this. Like where's the disconnect? But that happens so rarely. I believe for my life, the only aspects of life that I have control over are my effort and my attitude. So that's what their grade is based on, is effort and attitude.
That's cool.
And they have their own, they grade themselves in my class. At the end of every day, they give themselves an assessment, and that assessment goes into the system. It's called Infinite Campus, goes into Infinite Campus as a grade. And at the end of the semester, they have what they've given themselves all semester.
Interesting. My nerd brain wants to think about how cool that would be to like, if there was a way that you could track that and have it input to some kind of data lake. These are going to be terms they're going to blow your mind, but they could just say, oh, I'm Peter, today I'm this, right? Fill it in when they come into class. And then you could like see a difference of the trend like over time. And you could be like, hey, what happened this week? I noticed that there was something going on. Like you could have a deeper discussion. I think that'd be pretty cool. And they could even have like clouds to diff the years. Like, oh, more this year or this set of years, this class used this word more often than this word. That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you with, is there a term called anecdotal certainty?
Sure.
That the difference between when a kid arrives, when they leave, the change in the time of the day that they have the class matters. They come in rolled out of bed feeling this way. By the time they leave, they're in such a better mental place.
Yeah. Who did that research?
It's really fascinating.
John Rady, wasn't it? Did that one?
Yes.
That was pretty. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
but you see that in real time, like you observe that, like
oh my gosh, it's amazing! It's amazing. It's
Huh.
amazing. Yeah,
Wow.
It's really cool.
Nice.
It was like this 3rd week of school this year. Mr. D, it's really weird. Every time I leave this class, I just leave feeling like so good.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't run during this class. Is this like a runner's high? I said, this is a runner's high. Like you're getting the exact same thing. You're exercising, getting your heart rate up, getting your endorphins revved up. Like you are feeling exactly what a runner feels like on a runner's high. That is a runner's high. He's like, oh my gosh, it's so amazing.
He said, I'll be back tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah. So getting back to success, what I try to tell myself and my students is, okay, the only things in life that I have control over are my effort, my attitude. How can I take those 2 things and move myself forward toward this area of success, or this thing called success? It's interesting. We've been talking for 42 minutes now, and neither of us has even brought up the career, the financial, the money, many of the things that are touted as quote unquote success in our world. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. It's funny. As I was listening to you talk about the schooling approach, I wrote down that, how awesome it is that you give leeway for these kids to define success within themselves. And then you have supported lessons and tooling that backs that up. Like if I could think back to school for me, nobody was ever like, well, you define your own success and then go forward with what that means to you. Like that was never something that was taught. I think
Thank you.
Really cool.
So we're in the midst of our nutrition unit right now. And next week we're going to do what I call a 5-day challenge. And all it is can you make the smallest change? What's the smallest change you could think you could make to your nutrition or your food intake, and try to see it through for 5 days. So this kid might drink 7 Coca-Colas a day. If he can drink 6.5,
winning.
That's a win.
Yeah. Success.
So you and I just tell them whatever your goal is, as long as it has a number attached to it, because it's got to be objective. It can't. I'm going to drink less soda. No. There's got to be a number attached to it.
Yeah.
But as long as there's a number attached to it, whatever goal you want, I'm down. And I want to support.
Yeah.
And I had kids that jumped the gun. I told them we're going to be doing this, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. D, I must even go 5 days without coffee. See if we go 5 days without soda." And they're coming in and they're announcing it to the class. Yo, I'm on day 3 with no coffee to start my day, and the rest of the class like cheering. Yeah. So it's cool. It's really cool. But I love that. Go ahead.
If I say the letters OKR and KPI to you, do you know what that means?
No.
All right, I'm going to send you a book.
Anyway, this is awesome. I had no clue where this conversation was going to go tonight.
Isn't that the best part?
Was there a success?
I don't know. You tell me.
I got to hang out with you for 45 minutes. Of course it was a success.
Success.
Now I got to go figure out how I could be a better uncle.
You better get after it. Find some people to ask.
Seriously.
That's great. Okay.
Awesome. Well, to all our listeners out there, we appreciate your ears. We thank you for your time. We are grateful for your attention. Hopefully, this episode was a success for you. We are the School and Struggle Podcast. We are out.
See ya.